Get ready for the truth behind Noah's flood. What is Noah's flood? What happened to all the water after the flood, and was it a global catastrophe or a local event? And most importantly, where is the physical evidence on Earth for Noah's flood? The answer to these questions will blow your mind. So let's dive into this video today to know the real truth about Noah's flood in the Genesis account of Noah's Ark. Here we begin. The story of Noah's flood is a well-known tale from the Bible. According to the Old Testament, on a specific day, all the fountains of the great deep burst forth, and the windows of the heavens were opened. Genesis 7:11. God observed the wickedness of humans and decided to bring a massive flood to cleanse the earth. However, some people wonder if this flood actually occurred. God looked down upon humanity and saw wickedness, violence, and evil everywhere. Genesis 6:5. He decided to destroy all living creatures except for Noah, who found favor with God. Genesis 6:8. God instructed Noah, Genesis 6:14-16, to construct an enormous ark that measured 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. The exact length of a cubit in this context is debated, but it is generally believed to be around 18 inches, the length of a man's forearm from elbow to fingertip. God then commanded Noah, Genesis 6:19-20, to bring 2 of every kind of animal into the ark. This way, while other animals perish, each species would be preserved through these 2 representatives. However, it's worth noting that the exact number of animals is a subject of discussion. When Noah reached 600, God sent 40 days and nights of rain, causing the flood. Noah, his wife, sons, and their wives, as well as the animals on board the ark, were saved from the deluge and survived. Unfortunately, all other living beings outside of the ark perished in the floodwaters. Eventually, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Genesis 8:4. It's important to clarify that this refers to the region of Ararat and not the specific Mount Ararat, as commonly believed. Mount Ararat is a peak in modern-day Turkey, but it wasn't the exact landing spot for the ark. As the floodwaters receded, Noah released a raven and a dove to find dry land. The dove returned, so Noah waited for a week before sending it out again. This process repeated several times until the dove returned with an olive branch in its beak, symbolizing peace. In Genesis 9:13, God showed Noah a rainbow in the sky, explaining that it was a sign of his covenant with humanity, assuring that he would never flood the earth again. What does the Bible say? According to the Bible, the Noachian flood lasted for 40 days of rain, followed by 150 days of prevailing waters. Genesis 7:17-7:24. After 150 days, the floodwaters receded, and on the 17th day of the 7th month, Noah's ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Genesis 8:4. It took another year, 2 months, and 27 days for the earth to dry up enough for Noah, his family, and the animals to leave the ark. Genesis 8:14. Skeptics argue against the worldwide flood described in the Bible, claiming that sedimentary rocks containing fossils on all continents support a different interpretation. These rocks are interspersed with evaporate rocks like rock salt, gypsum, anhydrite, and various salts, along with red beds that contain fossilized mud cracks. The order of deposition of these minerals follows their solubility, suggesting a gradual process of evaporation and precipitation. These evaporite deposits are found at different levels within the fossil-bearing flood deposits, indicating localized drying conditions and not a global flood. The Bible describes a single instance of the floodwaters receding, leaving the earth dry, without mentioning multiple flooding and drying cycles throughout the year. This indicates that the evaporite deposits and red beds formed in localized desert climates, not during a global flood lasting over a year. Therefore, Noah's flood account should be understood as a large regional flood rather than a worldwide catastrophe. While some skeptics claim a lack of physical evidence for a global flood, it is important to consider different interpretations of the evidence based on one's worldview. The presence of rock layers with fossils throughout the continents suggests a water-formed history, which could be attributed to Noah's flood. However, differing views on the Earth's history and the interpretation of fossils as representing millions of years can lead to varying conclusions. We can find evidence of a catastrophic past by examining the features of the Earth's surface, such as canyons, craters, coal beds, and caverns. Certain rock layers span continents, indicating a significant catastrophe, and the extensive sedimentary rock layers within the Earth's crust, which were once soft but have since solidified, also support this view. Fossil evidence. The depths of sedimentary layers, there lies a staggering number of dead creatures, plants, and animals preserved as fossils. These remains were buried rapidly, providing us with undeniable evidence all across the Earth. The warnings within the Bible against disregarding the account of Noah's flood make perfect sense when we consider the theological implications involved. Jesus himself referred to the flood as a symbol of impending judgment, as depicted in Matthew 24:36-39. Likewise, 2 Peter 3 associates the flood with the coming judgment by fire. If the Genesis flood were merely a myth, then we would have to dismiss the notion of the impending judgment as mere mythology as well. Many individuals seek solid evidence to support their beliefs. Let's examine one such piece of evidence: fossils. Making a fossil requires special conditions, yet billions of them are scattered across the globe in massive graveyards. In contrast to the slow process of sediment deposition over hundreds of years described in the evolutionary narrative, creatures must be swiftly buried to prevent decomposition or consumption by scavengers. In fact, numerous animals were buried and fossilized so quickly that some were caught mid-meal or mid-birth. Moreover, we have found perfectly preserved soft-bodied creatures like squid, octopus, and jellyfish that would typically disintegrate within days of death. Such preservation can only be attributed to rapid burial and fossilization, not a slow geological process. Another compelling evidence for a global flood is the discovery of tree trunk fossils, some reaching heights of 30 feet, found upright or even upside down through multiple layers of sediment. This phenomenon contradicts the gradual accumulation of layers over millions of years, but supports the idea that these polystrate fossils were buried rapidly. Travelers worldwide can witness rock layers deposited simultaneously across the planet. This aligns with the Genesis account of a global catastrophe rather than a localized flood. For instance, the Tapeats sandstone, which rests upon the basement rocks of the Grand Canyon, also appears in Wisconsin, Israel, and Libya under different names. How could a local flood deposit the same rock layer across continents? The Grand Canyon provides further evidence with its multiple flat layers sitting atop each other without signs of erosion in between. Evolutionary scientists say these layers were deposited millions of years apart, with other deposits forming in other locations during the intervening period. However, the Coconino sandstone directly overlays the Hermit Formation without any indication of a deposited layer between them, as observed elsewhere. Supposedly, 5 to 10 million years passed before the Coconino sandstone was deposited atop the Hermit Formation without any erosion. Yet it appears as though the Coconino was immediately deposited on top of the Hermit. Isn't this evidence of a global flood? Consider another fascinating aspect. Numerous locations display consecutive rock layers that were initially soft when deposited and subsequently bent, sometimes dramatically. Ordinarily, rocks break instead of bending due to their hardness and brittleness. However, in various places, entire strata sequences are bent without fracturing, suggesting that all the rock layers were rapidly deposited and folded while still wet and pliable before hardening. For instance, the Tapeats sandstone in the Grand Canyon exhibits a 90-degree fold without any signs of breaking. This folding could only have occurred after the deposition of the remaining layers, supposedly over 480 million years, while the Tapeats sandstone was still wet and pliable. Furthermore, sea creature fossils are widespread, found in rock layers covering every continent. For example, the walls of the Grand Canyon, situated over a mile above sea level, contain marine fossils. Fossilized shellfish can even be found in the Himalayas. Extensive fossil graveyards and exceptionally preserved fossils further attest to catastrophic destruction and burial. So this is the truth about Noah's flood. What do you think of this? Comment below and subscribe for more.